Been around the whole world, still ain't seen nothing like my neighborhood. And of all of the fancy satin and silk, my white cotton feels so good. Search high and low for a place where I can lay my burdens down. Ain't nothing in the whole wide world like the peace that I have found. In the little things and the joy they bring. It's the little things and the joy they bring. Yeah. Simple as a phone call just to make it known that you're gonna be a little late. Pure as a kiss on a cheek and a word that everything will be okay. Call in the morning from my little sister singing to me happy birthday. In the quest for fortune and fame, don't forget about the simple things. It's the little things and the joy they bring. Lost sight of my goals. I do this for the love of music, not for the glitter and gold. Got everything that I prayed for, even a little more. When I asked to learn humility, this is what I was told. It's the little things and the joy they bring. It's the little things. It's the little things. Oh, baby. Give me my guitar, give me a bright star, give me some good news, give me some cute shoes, give me Atlanta, give me Savannah, give me my peace of mind. Give me some Stevie, give me some Donnie, give me my daddy, give me my mommies, pour me some sweet tea, spoonful of honey. I don't need a Hollywood.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to WURD, 900 AM on your radio dial. I'm Rhonda Hill Wilson, and I'm here with Reverend Dr. Kayla J. This is a day
that the Lord has made.
We shall rejoice
and be glad in it.
I'm so thankful to be here with you on this June 11th, Tuesday, June 11th. It's 10:09 in the morning. And we are going to be here with you until the 12 o'clock hour today. And then at 12 o'clock, Dr. Donnie is going to be here holding forth and giving you good information about health. And, you know, it's so important. We got to take care of one another, but we got to take care of yourself first. That is so important because oftentimes when we get out here in the struggle called life and the struggle against inequity, we often neglect ourselves and don't take the time to do all that we need to do to make sure that we are balanced. And if you are not well rested, not well fed, not well balanced, it is very, very difficult to take care of other folks. So not in a spirit of selfishness, but just in the spirit of balance and being able to continue to be out there in the struggle. We want you to take care of yourself. So listen to Dr. Donnie. She's going to hold forth again at 12 o'clock. And then we're going to be there until then. So I'm so proud. And I mentioned this to Brother Solomon on his exiting the booth. So proud of the continuity of struggle and for the right thing, for righteousness, because black people are human beings. Black people are more than intelligent. We brought you math. We brought you the written word. We brought you these emojis that you now acknowledge from, symbols. There was a time when people thought on the pyramids, those symbols mean people, they didn't know how to write. Yeah, we introduced writing. We introduced imagery that now people call emojis. Imagine that. So this whole idea that we are not, listen, as it has been said, we are the original man and woman. Thank you, anthropologist Leaks, for acknowledging that the originality of humanity comes from a place now known as Tanzania, which is, spoiler alert, Africa. So this whole idea of us and the idea that we are, not less than human, no. We are perfectly human, and we are the mother and father of the planet. That's who we are. And that's who everybody knows us to be sometimes, except for us. And that's because knowledge has been kept from us. As we struggle towards, and we struggle because it's hard to get ahead in life, in things, if you're struggling all the time, right? So if you're struggling for equal opportunity in a job, equal opportunity in lending, equal opportunity in the legal system, if you're always in a state of struggle, then it's hard to get ahead, right? And so that's how we find ourselves in this place called America, but it's also a worldwide struggle. And that's what I think is really important for us to remember. The struggle that we have here in America is a struggle, unfortunately, that they have in the DR, in Brazil, in Tasmania, in New Zealand, in Australia, in all of these places around the planet, in Africa, in the several countries in Africa. It is a worldwide struggle. And I know we focus often on the struggle here, as we should. But it's very important to understand the systematic nature of this fight that's before us. So good morning. With all of that said, good morning, everybody. You are listening to Black Talk Media. I'm Rhonda Hill Wilson. I'm an attorney here in the city of Philadelphia. And we are here, as God wills, on every Tuesday from 10 until 1, except for the second Tuesday in the month, which this is, and we're here from 10 until 12. And today we're pleased to have with us, who's going to be on a little later in the hour, Representative Jordan Harris. And he's going to come to us and talk to us about House Bill 1555. And it's an important bill because it revises the probationary status of those who are on probation in Pennsylvania. And some people call it the Meek-Mill Act or the Meek-Mill-backed probation reform bill. But to the extent that we can call it Meek-Mill, and we are appreciative of his laser focus on the issue and how he has been working along with other interests to move fair legislation with regard to probation and parole. It is a systemic, again, historic, in my opinion, evidence of neo-slavery. And if we can look at these things in terms of criminal justice, injustice, the legal system, through the prism of social control post-slavery, then we'll be a lot clearer on the struggle that we have, and then we can call a thing what it is. and whether you call it slavery or just slavery, it is an issue of social control over the black body, and in particular, the black male body. So we're going to have on Representative Jordan Harris, and he's going to talk to us about the bill. And I think it's an important thing to know. And one of the things I'm considering, and I think I will do it actually, is at least every month try to get a Harrisburg report. And what that means is that every month we are not only obviously a part of the city of Philadelphia and its environs and its suburbs, but we're also residents of the state, and oftentimes those issues that we deal with and that we face not only come out of City Hall, but it also comes clearly out of Harrisburg and Washington. So what I'd like to do going forward, and I'm going to try to do it every month, is have a Harrisburg report so that you can know legislation that's pending, legislation that's under consideration, legislation that's being introduced, legislation that's going sought to be revised, because so many of the things that impact us here in Philadelphia are often considered in Harrisburg, and some things imposed upon us come from Harrisburg as well. So we're going to talk again with Representative Jordan Harris within the hour, so we want you to listen and stay tuned. And we're also going to talk about, I don't know that people know this, but in Harrisburg, they are fast-tracking a bill out of the Republican House to reshape the judiciary in Pennsylvania. Now, I know that it might sound a little esoteric, but let me tell you what this all means. Let me break it down. This bill, a bill that they are offering, is, let me see if I can find, it's House Bill 196 that was passed out of the State House Judiciary Committee by a 14-11 vote without any Democratic support, is a bill that would actually just reshape the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. Right now, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and the Superior Court are elected by popular vote, and whoever gets the most votes wins. That's pretty basic kind of stuff, right? So that ain't good enough. Yeah, you know, with the GOP, they got to find something to do so they can win. They got to reshape the rules, change the rules, turn the rules around. So essentially, what they want to do is make districts for the Supreme Court, so that you black folks over here in Philadelphia with all these votes, your votes will be weighted for one district. So they want to now elect statewide judges by regions. And so what does that mean? It means that those in Elk County who vote would be able to vote for a Supreme Court justice coming from their district. Now, right now, I think the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania is comprised of a Judge Dougherty from Philadelphia, Justices Bayer, Wecht, Donahoe, and Todd. They're all from Pittsburgh. So to me, it's like they're not even over. It's not even like Philly. It's like the western side of Pennsylvania, if you want to say, is represented in a heavy way. There's 4 individuals on the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania who are from Pittsburgh, 1 from Westmoreland County, who is the Chief Justice, 1 from Tioga County. I think that's 9. I hope that's 9. But at any rate, that's not satisfactory. So a Republican legislator, Representative Russ Diamond out of Lebanon County, says they want to create a nine-part district, seven-part district, so that each region of the state would be able to have representation on the Supreme Court. Essentially, what that does, everybody, is a person who wins statewide will not be able to run statewide. They'd only be able to run in their district. And historically, that has been, not done, because it will become it will become even more political than it is or can be. And you can be assured now that the Supreme Court will always be Republican. That's really what it comes down to. So I just want you to be aware of that. However they word it, I will keep you abreast. But essentially, what this bill would do would be to reshape the Pennsylvania judiciary so that Republicans would always be the majority. So I just wanted you to know that as we await our representative. And just so that you know, the House Republican Caucus calls it the diversity in court elections. Now, don't you know, they always take the language that we use, flip it, and use it for themselves. So be careful, be aware. House Bill 196, as it comes to the fore and it comes to your attention, or not, and that's why I'm bringing it to your attention right now, it will be regional court elections, but the essence of it, and you know they done sat down and plot and plan and figure this all out, because right now the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is 6 Democrats and 1 Republican, and who is the Chief Justice. But they getting ready to fix it, so they're getting ready to try to create this court in a way that is weighted into, because, I mean, who's going to move to Elk County to change an election? Who's going to be in Beaver County to change an election? It will always be weighted white, male, Republican. So just a little bit of information. And then today there was issued a report in the Philadelphia Inquirer, just so that you know, about how there is a study that has been placed for consideration that confirms what we already know, which is that Philadelphia is becoming more gentrified and gentrified more quickly. So we're going to talk a little bit about that study, and then we're going to talk to you to talk about the things that have been happening over the last week. I know that you haven't really gotten an opportunity to talk about it, but if you'd like to give us a call as we await our guests, you can give us a call at 215-634-8065. And if you're calling outside of Philadelphia, and I know and I hope you done talk to your cousins and them about what we do here at WURD in Philadelphia, I don't care where they are. I don't care if they're in California, Connecticut, Alabama, Florida. Let them know that there's Black Talk Media. It's national, it's local, it's worldwide. We want you to listen. We want you to tell everybody about WURD. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. Again, the toll-free number, 1-866-361-0900. If you're calling on the hotline, call us at 215-634-8065. We want to talk to you.
Brothers and sisters, don't miss The Source.
Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
on Word Radio,
WordRadio.com, and the Word Radio app.
Word Radio and Love Now Media celebrate 11 days of love stories by honoring acts of love that paid it forward. Dr. Walter P. Lomax Jr. was a medical doctor and entrepreneur. His daughter, Sarah Lomax Reese, remembers.
So my dad had many expressions of love in terms of his city, the city of Philadelphia, his South Philadelphia community. I think one of his most public expressions of love is WURD. You know, that was really him giving voice to the community that he loved. But I think the most unknown act of love and paying it forward is the fact that in 1994, he purchased the plantation where his family were enslaved. It's an 18th century plantation in King William County, Virginia, and it was his great-great-grandmother had been enslaved. It's called Aspen Grove, and we actually renamed it Jubilee Farm when we bought it, when he bought it, and my mom bought it. And they proceeded to purchase almost 800 acres around the house, and that was adjoining the plantation. So to me, that is just a beautiful kind of full circle experience and example of showing love for your ancestors, showing love for your family, and showing love for the future, because this is something that is now a part of our family's legacy that we really cherish and are nourished by.
Love Stories, because love fuels the work. Share your love story at wordradio.com or lovenowmedia.com. Love Now, pay it forward.
WordRadio.com. Word Family. Mark your calendars and save the date. Friday, June 28th for the annual Word Wellness and Food Festival at the Fresh Grocer of Monument Road. And take advantage of our special early bird membership drive. Start or renew your 4Word membership between now and June 28th, and you'll get a discounted rate of just $75. Join the 4Word movement today so you can protect and preserve independent Black media. Call 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. We'll see you on June 28th.
You're listening to The Source
On Word Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Has been tested, has been tried, has been questioned, held to the fire. It has faced storms, the wind and rain. It has been forced to feel some pain. Has no doubt, uncertainty. It has no patience and urgency. It has its haters, will have its fans, will have its freedoms and its demands. But this love won't end, won't end. It's never giving up on this.
And we're back. We're back. I'm Rhonda Hill Wilson. I'm here with Kayla J. And we're holding forth on The Source on this Tuesday, June 11th, 2019. Beginning of the summertime, and we're so happy. Summertime, I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. I love the warm weather. And we are here as I said, until the 12 o'clock hour. But we're talking about really, really important information. Because as much as there is police on Facebook misconduct, and in the next hour we're going to do a little bit about Facebook and Farrakhan. Since we're talking about this whole Facebook thing, I'm just not understanding, Kayla, how the police can be on Facebook and spouting all this white supremacist stuff, but they took off Minister Farrakhan because they say he's not acting appropriately. I just don't get it. So maybe you as a young person can explain to me this whole social media phenomenon and how they create definitions, because I'm confused. Anyway, so we are here. We're talking about issues with regard to the legal system, and part of it is the purpose and reason for a legal system. And I have to tell you, after going to law school and being in the law for 40 years, It is clear that it has positives, but there's also the aspect of law which is about maintaining social control and power. Let's just call it what it is. And it really should be for the good. It should be just. It should be fair. It should be in the spirit of Ma'at, what is going to bring and edify people at their highest level. But at the end of the day, if Trump hasn't shown you or I anything, it's about how the rules only matter for certain folks. And other folks feel that they can flout the laws, flout the rules, flout the regulations, and there's no consequence. There should be consequences. There should be consequences for the police who post racist postings on Facebook. There should be consequences, because otherwise rules and laws and regulations don't matter. Why have a rule or a law if you don't enforce it? Why bother? We're going to Cliff. Thank you for your call and your patience. Hey, Cliff, you there? Do we have Cliff?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Now I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll get right to the point. Listen, what you said earlier, you had a tone of spirituality. And I would certainly say, in addition to that, that I would further say that we are God's chosen people. And that's what we experience in so much demise. And so in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, it talks about the beast, the mark of the beast, and so forth. And I truly believe that though they are symbolic to the certain entities that exist today, government, the police department, these things are corrupt and they're wicked. And the Bible says that we fight not against flesh and blood, but principality and wickedness
in high places.
Absolutely. And that is the reason why, and I'm so glad that you're on point. What you're speaking about today should be a message that should be preached in the churches as a sermon by preachers. We need activist preachers in our black leadership to address these issues. And so on your first program, you had a caller, and shout out to Solomon for organizing this whole protest against the corruption for the police department. And then that brother Brian Turner, I believe, that had the courage, a black man, and even some black sisters that had the courage to speak out against this. These are the Jesuses of today that we look at and should applaud and recognize, because their lives are literally on the line for standing up for our people and standing up for justice.
And support.
The courage.
And support. Absolutely. And because I think the thing that we often forget is that leaders are human beings too. And they need encouragement. They need support. They need a word. They need sometimes a wink. But they need uplifting, because it's heavy and it's hard carrying the weight of black people or any people on your shoulders.
And also, let me say this, sister, in closing. I know you got other callers, that we, as particularly our youth have to turn back and have to turn back to God. You know what I mean? So the self-hatred that we commit, we're only being misused and mistreated because they see the self-hatred that we perpetuate amongst ourselves.
So let me just stop you there. Let me just stop you there for a second, Cliff. If you and I had control over the media, we would see different kind of images.
Absolutely.
And I heard a national comedian yesterday say in the 60s or 70s, really, black people asked for the cops to come into the community and do XYZ. In the 70s, black people asked, for welfare. And so what you just said, it just brought me to mind about that, because we're not asking for people to disrespect us. We're not asking for people to abuse us. We're not asking for the imagery of a black man and black woman to be scandalous and scoundrels. We're not asking for that. That has been put into our communities, that has been put into our minds with the programming that happens on television. If you or I, Cliff, had control over Viacom or BET, the imagery would be positive, it would be godlike, it would be focused on progress and how we are dignified people. So we're not asking for that.
And you know what, sister, and I'll end with this. That's the reason, to segue into your last point, that's the reason why Minister Louis Farrakhan was banned off of Facebook, because the white people, our enemies, do not want people with conscious of self-preservation and self-promotion to elevate and uplift our people. Thank you much.
Amen. Thank you so much, Cliff, for your call. We're going to go to Mary next from Mount Airy. Hey, Mary, how are you, sis?
I'm fine, and I want to say good morning to the word listening audience.
Good morning, fam.
And, I want to let people know that the news media and people, white people in general, they have been promoting this false narrative that we are in need of all the revenues and the security in this country. We're only 14% of the population, but we have been used as revenue for this country, and that's from the beginning of slavery. So people have to realize that. I just wanted to let Solomon and the rest of the people that's protesting make sure that those cases are in the correct court. They need to be solely in federal court under the color of law, not with District Attorney Larry Krasner. He has no jurisdiction over that. Okay, whenever a politician or a government official commits a crime, it solely goes to federal court for enforcement of those laws that are in place that they violated. We allowed state prosecutors to get off with listing the same violent, racist information on their website. We even had some judges to do this, and they got off because it was not in the right courtroom, and they were allowed to resign or retire, and we still paid their pension. So
let me just share this with you. And I think from a legal perspective, typically when there's a case of a civil rights violation, they can be heard. It can be, yes, heard in state court. But typically and usually any issue with regard to the United States Constitution and its interpretation, as well as the interpretation of the amendments and laws and regulations, are heard in federal court. So if there are cases involving police misconduct, typically what attorneys do who practice in the area of civil rights bring these cases in federal court. So that's usually what happens. It can't say that state courts cannot hear them, but I would say, based on my observation over the years, that it is usually brought in federal court. So I just wanted to give people that insight as well.
Okay. Also, I want to let you know that usually those cases go in front of an arbitrator in state court, which these are administrative judges. They're not law judges. And
so can I share this with you? Let me just give you this as well.
Okay.
As I understand it, and I am not a FOP or police focused law attorney, and to people who don't know, all lawyers don't do everything, just so people know. And if you have a lawyer that tells you I do everything, you should have a question mark, because areas of law now are very much specialized. But to what I do know, because I do nursing home litigation, is that there's what they call arbitration. And arbitration is a private system of justice. And typically when there are issues with regard to police personnel issues, it goes to arbitration. And arbitration, as I say, is a private system of justice. So whether it be a commercial contract where they say you have to go to arbitration if we have to have a dispute, or whether it's a nursing home, or whether it's police, typically in arbitration there is one person, and that person is typically a lawyer, but doesn't have to be, as you said, but usually it's a lawyer, and the proceedings are closed, the discovery is closed, they cannot report out what happened. I mean, it's a secretive system of justice that I always encourage people not to sign up for.
Right.
But for police, that's a part of their contract. So one of the things that people need to understand about the upcoming contract and upcoming, processes that are at play here is understand the arbitration system and how it is the antithesis of what we've been taught our whole lives about what justice is supposed to be about, which is an open process, which is people should be, able to see and hear what's going on, that there will be a report out, that you'll be able to appeal, that there'll be discovery. None of that happens in arbitration.
And that's correct, because if you get an unfair decision, you need to appeal it in federal court, only in federal court, because they interpret the laws, they interpret contracts, violation of contracts, violation of any government officials that are in place that have denied rights to people, anybody.
Well, they can do that in state court. Thank you so much for your call, sis. They can do that in state court as well. But as I've described, under federal law, that's the court system. The federal courts down at 6th and Market Street is the court. The United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania is the court, the trial court, if you will, in this district. Then there's a middle district, and then there's a western district. And Western District is out of Pittsburgh, and the Middle District is out of Harrisburg, but they have other offices as well. And that court typically is the court that interprets the United States Constitution. It also interprets its laws and its amendments and its regulations. So, but people need to know about this arbitration system. It's a private system of justice. It's a closed system of justice. It is the antithesis of what people understand justice to be about in its implementation. We're so pleased to have on with us Representative Jordan Harris. Thank you so much for calling and taking time, sir, out of your busy day to let us know what's going on in Harrisburg. Thank you for being on our show.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
It has been my intention to call you and sit down and talk with you at your convenience on issues of remaking the criminal justice system here in Pennsylvania. But I am so excited to hear and to see this House Bill 1555. And for people who are not aware of, first of all, what district you represent, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, the district you represent, and about the impetus for House Bill 1555?
Sure. Well, I represent the 186th district, which is parts of South and Southwest Philadelphia. So the neighborhoods of Point Breeze, Grays Ferry, Graduate Hospital, and King Sessing are in my district, and I've represented that area since January 1st of 2013. I am the Democratic whip in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and I take pleasure in serving a community that I literally grew up in my entire life. House Bill 1555 is around reforming our probation and parole laws. The impetus truly for this, we've been doing criminal justice reform work since I've been a legislator. In 2016, we did Act Number 5, which provided a pathway for folks with certain crimes to get their records sealed. 2017, we worked with the governor to ban the box on state-level jobs. 2018, we passed the Clean Slate Act, which automatically sealed criminal records after a certain amount of time for certain crimes, and that bill actually became a national model, and other states around the country have been following the lead we've taken here in Pennsylvania. So for me, probation and parole reform is kind of a next step in our quest to seriously reform our criminal justice system here in Pennsylvania.
So a lot of people think of this bill, the House Bill 1555, as the Meek Mill bill. So I know that there is attention now in a way that perhaps historically has not been on the issue of probation and parole reform. But was there some part of the popular culture that brought this to the attention of the entire legislature, because sometimes I know and I feel like Philadelphia is a little stepchild on issues of criminal justice and criminal justice issues.
Well, for many of us who have been in our communities and have been working on these issues for a while, we've always known that this is the issue. I think the benefit of having somebody like Meek go through this situation is that it brought a lot of attention and a lot of spotlight onto it. But the truth is, when it happened to Meek, you had folks all over the community, giving you the amen section in the church, because they themselves and or a relative has been going through the same process. So I'm a firm believer that there are opportunities when things happen to us that I guess some people would consider bad, where they can actually work out for the good.
Yes.
I think that's exactly what's happening with this. I mean, Meek Mill is an example of the systematic problems that we had in Pennsylvania with regards to our probation and parole issues. For example, you can be on probation or on parole and get what we call a technical violation. I mean, the fact that it's called a technical violation should raise or should ring alarm bells for folks that there's something wrong. I mean, these are not new crimes.
It's technical.
Yes, these are technical violations. Whether it's being late to meet with your probation officer, whether it's not having all of the resources to pay your fines because you haven't been able to. That's a whole
thing. I'm going to ask you to just hold for 1 second as we pay for this time here on the radio. We have some commercials, and then Representative Harris will be right back to you. Please, everyone, stay tuned.
Brothers and sisters!
Don't miss The Source.
Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
on WURD Radio.
WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Independence is a precious thing, but now and then everyone needs a little help. Isn't it good to know that getting the help you need doesn't mean drastically changing your life? Always Best Care Philly and Delaware is there to give you just the amount of help you need, from a few hours a week to as many hours as you need, handling everything from light housekeeping to meals, and so much more. Don't struggle. Contact Always Best Care and see how easy it is to age in place. Call us at 267-909-9248 or visit abcphillybristol.com.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875
or visit WURDradio.com.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Source
On WURD Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
And we're back, and you're listening to WURD 900 AM here in the city of Philadelphia. And if you are listening to us on our website, streaming live, or if you would like to, you can reach us at WURDradio.com. We are all over social media. We are on Facebook at Forward, Twitter, Instagram, or the Gram, as Kayla has so informed me, or Tumblr at onWURD. So we're on all social media. We're streaming live. We're on Facebook Live. So if you want to see us, and I know people probably are for trying to figure out what I look like, because I've been on the low for like the last 20 years. I'll be on the radio trying not to let nobody see me so I can get in and out of these spaces. But we're on Facebook Live. And we're talking to Representative Jordan Harris, and we're talking to him about his work in social and criminal justice reform. We're talking about House Bill 1555, which will have such an impact on our community because there's so many people in our community that continue on probation and parole long beyond the time of their original sentences. Is that also a reason, Representative Harris, that you and other like-minded legislators in Harrisburg have come up with this bill?
Well, I think for us, it's looking at where Pennsylvania stands. Pennsylvania is the second highest state. We have the second highest percentage of citizens on probation and parole with regards to being, a northeasterner state. Back in 2016, we had about 112,000 people on parole. Illinois, that's the state that is similar to Pennsylvania, had only 30,000 people.
And New York City had like 10,000, right? I mean, it's
it's ridiculous. But not only that, what we've actually started to do is look at the data, and I think that's where we have to go with regards to criminal justice. Is what does the data say? The data shows us that after 3 years, if a person stays clean in the sense of no new crimes or rearrest in 3 years, the chance of them committing a new crime is really nil, right? But when a person is on probation or parole, past that 3-year time period, it exacerbates their likelihood of being rearrested, because simple things that you and I may do, getting a traffic ticket, breaking up a fight, getting into an altercation, that's not a crime. But if you're on probation or parole, it is a crime, and it can send you back to prison. Again, so I want the callers to understand, we're not talking about a person who committed a new crime. We're talking about a person who's just on probation or parole who gets a violation to get sent back, and it costs taxpayers $42,000. In addition to that, what we've seen is, if a person goes and they get a technical violation, some of our judges are extending their probation and or parole time, where you have people who have been on probation or parole for 10, 15 years. It makes absolutely no sense, and it costs the taxpayers lots of money, and there's no data around to back up the necessity for that type of thing.
So I have to say, I think that what you're saying is so critically important on a number of levels. But one of the things that is really scary to me is the scarcity of metrics that the system works on. So as you say, there's no data that supports, continuing supervision over people and its relationship to future criminal behavior. But there's just so many things other than, to me, and I'm just going to be honest with you, I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from Philly, I'm from West Philly, I grew up in West Philly, but the whole idea that I grew up thinking that Pennsylvania was up north and it was this kind of progressive state and the Quaker state and William Penn, and then to know that Pennsylvania is one of the most, I call it Penalvania right now, because it's like so many people from Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are in prison across the state.
I'm looking at my staff like Pennsylvania. That's pretty good. I might have to use it. I might have to steal it. The first
you
time
got it.
I'm gonna give you credit, but the second and third time, it's all
But that's how I feel about it. ACLU says 10% of Pennsylvanians are black, but 46% of the prisoners in Pennsylvania are black people.
No, I mean, listen.
Oh.
So Pennsylvania, back in the 80s and the 90s, Pennsylvania and the legislature went through the whole tough on crime mindset, like many other states across this country have done. The difference is many of those other states have, saw the error of their ways and have changed the way they view their criminal justice system. In Pennsylvania has not. But with that being said, listen, we are actually moving in the right direction. And we're moving in the right direction because a lot of folks, Democrats and Republicans, urban, rural, conservative, and liberals are joining together. I mean, House Bill 1555 is my bill with Representative Cheryl Delosier, who's a Republican woman from Cumberland County, and we're working on this together. Over in the Senate, there is Senate Bill 14 that is a probation and parole reform bill with Senator Cameron Bartolotta, who's out of Greene County in the western part of the state, and Philadelphia's own Senator Anthony H. Williams. I mean, we are moving. Look, we have Americans for Prosperity, the Commonwealth Foundation, the business leaders, as in the chamber, on the same side as the ACLU, Families Against Mandatory
Woo!
working for this issue. So for me, this is not a liberal or conservative issue. This is really about Pennsylvania finally seeing that there have been errors of our ways. So I mean, we're working hand in glove with a lot of folks. So yes, the Reform Alliance. So Mike Rubin, Jay-Z, Meek Mill, all of those folks Van Jones are very much involved in the work that we're doing in Pennsylvania, as well as folks like the Justice Action Network, who are pushing us and helping us push to get probation and parole reform.
So tell us succinctly what changes people should be aware of that this bill brings forward.
So the changes that this bill looks to do is it will prevent the courts from sentencing a person to consecutive sentences of probation. We look to cap the time that a person can be on probation. I think it's 3 years. It's 2 years for misdemeanor and 5 years for felony. It removes vague language that help with the technical violation piece, and we have good time credit that is also put in the bill. And right now, if you get a violation, they automatically send you back, but we're actually changing that process so where you have a court date before they actually if there is a violation. Now, let me explain, and I want to explain that. I want to go a little deeper in that.
Please.
It's important. In Pennsylvania, a person will get a technical violation, right? And again, not new crime.
Late for an appointment.
You're late for an appointment, you get a violation, you get violated, you get sent back to jail. They can sit in jail for months until they get their violation hearing. And while they're sitting in jail, they've lost their job, they may have lost their home,
their loved ones.
All of that is a collateral consequence of the situation, and then they can get before a judge, and the judge can let them out. Well, we've just wasted taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
First thing, in many folks, the first thing in people's minds is we're wasting taxpayer dollars on this that could have went to education, roads and bridges, and all that other things.
Yes.
But the consequence for the person is astronomical. Where they already have the scarlet letter of conviction on them. Now that they've gotten their life together, we should not be a barrier for them. So changing this to where they get a court hearing before they get sent back is in my opinion, monumental to helping us address the issues that we have in probation and parole in Pennsylvania.
So the other piece that I thought was important, and the thing that stands out to me in Meek Mill's example, is that a judge could forever stop you from travel, and there was one case I think that recently Meek had an opportunity to go over to Abu Dhabi and make $500,000 and was stopped. So I mean, I hear the part about the immediate review, and that's really important, but can judges just essentially control every aspect of your life? And does this bill address that in any way?
As the law stands now, the answer is yes. A judge can. And let me be clear: there are lots of judges in Pennsylvania who get this and who actually support this legislation. I can tell you, walking through the CJC building or just walking through downtown, I run into judges who tell me that they agree on this. Now, our judges aren't allowed to be political, so it's not a lot that they can do publicly, but a lot of current judges and retired judges have approached us about their support for this. Now, as far as the travel restriction, we actually removed that language. It's in the bill that it will remove that from law unless it can be proven that this travel is a way to avoid probation or parole, where we remove that in this bill.
Well, I really applaud you. I really thank you for bringing this issue up. One of the issues that I wanted to talk with you about, and I'm going to talk to you about it on air, and then I'm going to give you a call, your office a call rather, later today, is as an attorney, I'm a trial attorney here in the city of Philadelphia. I do civil work, and that's my area of practice. But I can tell you that by working over in City Hall and calling juries forward, I very rarely see African-American young men and young women, too, for different reasons. One of the things that stands out is obviously daycare, and I want to talk with you about trying to create a daycare, juror daycare and court business daycare center. We've testified before City Council about it, but I want to make sure that our African-American legislators know about it as well. But one of the things that I know in calling juries forward is that if in Pennsylvania you have if you have a adjudication punishable by a year or more, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, you can never serve as a juror in Pennsylvania in your whole life. So let's say when you're 18, something happened, you had a crack pipe or whatever, because you know that's punishable by 5 years. At 18, you can never serve on a jury in Pennsylvania in your whole life. And so I don't know that people know that, and it to me is a primary civil rights issue, and I'd like to talk to you about it a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, so I'm actually sitting here with my lawyer in Harrisburg, and he knew that. I actually didn't know that. And listen, I think in my mind it should go hand in glove with voting rights. If we restored your voting rights, we should probably also restore your right to serve on a jury. And while we're talking about juries, I think it's extremely important, particularly as the African American community, that we promote to our community that serving on a jury is extremely important. A few years ago, I served on a jury. The case that I got was a homicide and an attempted murder case. And the judge actually knew that I was an elected official. They asked me, was it in my district? I said no. They asked me if I knew any of the people. I said no, and they put me right on a jury. And
it was eye-opening, wasn't it?
It was. It was such a beneficial process for me as a Pennsylvanian, but then for me as a legislator to actually be in the courtroom and to see how. This ain't Law and Order. This is
real,
totally different than what you see. And I don't think the average Philadelphian or Pennsylvanian gets to see that if unless they take the time to actually serve on jury duty. That's number one. The second part is it's supposed to be a jury of our peers. If we, as the black community, are not serving on juries, it's not a jury of our peers. So we can't get mad when somebody gets found guilty but we don't take the time to go down and actually serve on jury duty. It's extremely important to the criminal justice.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a call later today and see if I can get on your schedule sometime this month. But it's a critical issue because there are too few young African-American men who are able to serve, who get called to serve, and their lives, our lives, are changed so much by the determinations of a jury here in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you so much for calling in. Thank you so much for sharing the information that you have with our audience. And we look forward to perhaps having a Harrisburg report coming, because people need to know what's going on in Harrisburg, especially that whole thing about them trying to redo the Supreme Court. There's so much to talk about in so little time, but I'll reach out to you again. Is that okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. Look forward to talking to you. We're going to take our break, and we're going to come back. We're going to ask you to talk about what you've heard. Give us a call, 215-634-8065. We'll be right back. We have to take our break.
Philly, D.C., and everything in between. Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Breaking down the latest in local and national news. Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio.
Was that a contraction? Will I have a private room?
Should I deliver with a doctor or a midwife?
Can I try for a VBAC?
How much weight should I be gaining?
Is there a doctor on site?
Is it time to push?
How am I supposed to fit all of these appointments in?
Can I still exercise?
From prenatal care through delivery to postpartum support, including our Level 3 NICU for babies needing extra care. When you have questions, Einstein Maternity Care has answers. Make your appointment at 1-800-EINSTEIN.
Who will protect the citizens of the tri-state area from careless motorists, doctors who make medical mistakes, and companies that make defective products? Who will ensure that property owners are held accountable for dangerous conditions on their land? Who will represent the people with the honesty, integrity, and compassion that they deserve?
I will. I'm Sam Anion, your advocate, your lawyer, but most importantly, I'm your friend.
For more information, call 215-935-6901. That's 215-935-6901. Call now.
Drive in
with Solomon Jones.
Drive home
with Charles Ellison.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD.
Philadelphia, independent black media.
It's a journey, not a destination. There are no mistakes, just chances we've taken. Lay down your regrets, 'cause all we have is now. Wake up in the morning and get out of bed. Start making a mental list in my head of all of the things that I am grateful for. Early in the morning, it's the dawn of a new day. New hopes, new dreams, new ways. I open up my eyes and open up my mind, and I wonder how life will surprise me today. Early in the morning, it's the dawn of a new day. New hopes, new dreams, new ways. I open up my heart and I'm gonna do my part and make this a positively beautiful day. Smell the roses and be on a mission. Just take a moment to get in touch with your heart. Sometimes you feel like you've got something to prove. Remind yourself that there's only one you. Just take a moment to give thanks for who you surprise me today. Early in the morning, it's the dawn of a new day. New hopes, new dreams, new ways.
And we're back. We are back. It's The Source on WURD. I'm Rhonda Hill Wilson, and I'm an attorney here in the city of Philadelphia. And for folks who may or may not know, we're here every Tuesday from 10 until 1. However, on this Tuesday, we will be holding forth until the 12 o'clock hour, and Dr. Donnie will be here, and then we'll be talking with her about health issues in our community. So we want you to stay tuned and listen to the programming. We always try to provide something dynamic, something instructional, instructive, helpful, hopeful always, because in all of the things that you hear, that we go through, that we struggle through, there is always hope. And the hope is that we lean on one another. The hope is that we look forward and upward. The hope is knowing that everything that comes to us, we just take the obstacles and turn them into opportunities. We take the lemons and we make it into lemonade. And that is what I would like to share with you today. Anything that we go through, it's going to help us to become stronger. And I know that it's, hard sometimes, but however hard it is, it's not hard as it's been. And I think back to what our ancestors have come through. Know, trust, and believe. We are the hope of our ancestors. We are the dreams that they had for us as they struggled and as they toiled through slavery and segregation and Jim Crow. Know that we are that hope, and we have to provide that hope and direction and instruction to our young people. That's what we are called to do. That is our legacy. And so it may be that a young person needs a smile. It might mean that they need a hand on their shoulder, an encouragement, $5. I don't know. Do something. We're going to go to Sherry. Is Sherry still there? Sherry.
Yes, I am.
Hey, thank you for your call.
Thank you for taking my call, and good morning to you.
Good morning.
I learned a couple of things from listening to your program today. One is that we cannot really trust that a felony arrest and subsequent conviction would have any merit given the systemic existence of racist and corrupt police officers in this city. The other thing that I learned is that if it were not for the criminal justice system and the child welfare system, anyone living between Allegheny and Philadelphia counties would be on welfare. As you know, back in the 60s, there was a divestment in the tire industry, the factories, the clothing industries, the farming industries, which left those counties, I think there were 23 counties that are looking for Supreme Court justice, which left those 23 counties without any source of income or resources. And they subsequently garnished their wealth from our children, our men and our women going into prison or going into the foster care system. And I think that we need to learn something from that. I think that we need to learn that we need to do better in terms of our community, in terms of supporting and helping those people who we see are in a struggle, helping them get the services and the support that they need in order for them to redeem themselves and renew themselves. I really appreciated this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your call, and thank you so much for your patience. The reality is part of the increase of incarceration of our communities is as a result of the struggle for the continuing struggle. Let me be clear, the continuing struggle. Because I don't separate the struggle that I had from the separation of the struggle of my great-grandmother, who's buried in a churchyard in Virginia, who was born a slave and died in 1956, a slave at 104 years old. I don't separate my struggle from her or from my grandmother, who paid poll tax if she could pay it, and if she couldn't, she didn't vote. And they were poor in Virginia. So I don't separate my struggle from that either. But the continuing struggle that we have for justice, I don't separate it from any of that. But the reality is, as a result of the civil rights movement, as a result of the gains in the 60s, 63, 64, 65, and the continuing troubles, as some people saw it, with the Vietnam War, there was clamped down an emergency system that we still struggle with today. We don't see it because nobody calls it that. But in the late 60s, as a result of the struggles of our people and its struggles and advancements, then it just seemed like all hell broke loose. And if you're old enough to remember, you remember in the 60s where all of a sudden, when we were able to sleep on our porches and lay on the floor at night with our front door open, that changed because drugs got dumped into our communities. Dumped. And in the early 70s, you used to see heroin addicts sitting on the porches, and if you were in New York City, you saw them in the middle of the street. Heroin, high-grade heroin. You saw the black exploitation movies that made black women pimps and prostitute and men's pimps, and all of the foolishness that you saw that messed with your mind about who black people were. And then all of a sudden you saw police presence, and then you saw the Rockefeller drug laws and the drug laws that put black men primarily in jail for 20, 30, 40 years for an ounce of reefer. And all of a sudden they were the drug lords. So it's a continuing struggle. But you have to know history. Those who do not know history and do not remember and recall history are doomed to repeat it. We cannot separate the struggle of our people one generation to another. And we need to tell the story, because otherwise you will have people who call themselves learned thinking that it was us that put ourselves in jail. It was us that sold and put drugs into our community when we didn't own a poppy field. We didn't own a commercial vehicle that brought the stuff from overseas here. We didn't own any of that. And somehow the drug lords turned out to be us when we didn't own a thing to put that stuff into our communities. Not one thing. We're going to go to Fred. Thanks for your call, Fred.
Hi, Serrano. How you doing, honey?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I just want to run this down right quick. It won't take that long. It just said, for the sake of Zion, I will not keep silent, and for the sake of Jerusalem, I will not keep still until her righteousness shines like a bright light, and her salvation burns like a torch. The nation will see your righteousness, O woman, and all the kings your glory, and you will be called by a new name, which Jehovah's own mouth will designate. You will become a crown of beauty in the hand of Jehovah, a royal turban in the palm of your God. No more will you be called an abandoned woman, and your land will no longer be called desolated. But you will be called my delight is in her, and your land will be called the married one. For Jehovah will take delight in you, and your land will be as the married one. For just as the young man marries the virgin...
Fred, you got to slow down.
Oh, sure. For just as the young man marries the virgin, your sons will marry you with rejoicing of a bridegroom over a bride, and you will be called, and your God will rejoice over you.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I wanted to do today was talk about, and I'm not sure if people have talked about it, but it has vexed me, I guess. Is that a good word, vex? That whereas the police posted scurrilous, dangerous dialogue on Facebook and were outed by BuzzFeed, and you know about that because you are aware of or were present at the rally on last Friday in front of the police administration building led by our own Solomon Jones. It was interesting to me that that speech was permitted to be on Facebook, and yet in May of this past year, Facebook banned, quote, dangerous individuals who were cited for hate speech. So my question is, who, the arbiter of hate speech, who is that, number one? Number two, if all hate speech was banned, then why wasn't the hate speech of these police officers who were designated to have been the authors of this speech not banned? Why were they permitted space, but Minister Farrakhan was not? Because they weren't dangerous individuals? And I bring this out because to me it's like the Constitution of the United States has been suspended again. In my opinion, it was suspended with Terry versus Ohio, and we talked about that in terms of being the United States Constitution under the Fourth Amendment is supposed to protect people from unreasonable search and seizure. And yet with Terry versus Ohio, it appears that the United States Supreme Court has suspended the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution for black and brown people for the last 50 years. But it appears again that free speech, again, something that is supposed to be protected by the United States Constitution, is being challenged. Now, I think Alex Jones is a nutcase. Crazy. I think he is. But there's something to be said for him having the ability to say and us having the ability to criticize what he says. Now, nobody is saying that free speech is unchecked or should be unchecked or unchallenged. Clearly, you can't say fire in a crowded movie theater. That's an example that we were given in con law class. So you just can't say anything. I get that. But the idea that dangerous individuals should not be able to have access to media, I think is a beginning or continuation of a very dangerous and slippery slope that we find ourselves in during this especially Trump era, where you hear and see white supremacists in the White House throwing white power signs that somehow are able to be disseminated. And yet, a Minister Farrakhan is designated and noted as a dangerous individual who speaks hatred. So I was able to locate a rally in Chicago in I believe it was May of this year, and we're going to go to break. We're going to cue it up. I'm going to play a little bit of it, and then I want to get your thoughts on it. So if you've heard this speech already in Reverend Flagler's church, I think that's what Flagler in Chicago, then you'll tell everybody about it, to everybody tune in so that they can get to hear it as well. But we're going to cue up this this speech, and then we're going to talk with you a little bit more about Farrakhan and Facebook and free speech. And you might want to start giving us a call at 215-634-8065. We're going to take a break. We're going to cue up the speech, and then we're going to come back and talk to you. Stay tuned.
Drexel University's continuing professional education supports Word and Black Music Month. Stay ahead of the competition with courses ranging from project management and Lean Six Sigma to data visualization and web development. Get in touch with us at drexel.edu/goodwin/CPE.
This is Word Radio, independent Black media.
Bachelor Brothers Funeral Services, proudly serving families in 3 locations: Trenton, New Jersey, Broad Street in North Philly, and Garrett Road near West Philly. A tradition of excellence, a promise of care. BachelorBrothers.com or call Bachelor Brothers at 610-713-5560. You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. We thank Almighty God for his many blessings. We thank him for his many gifts, his goodness, his mercy. We thank him for his prophets and messengers. We thank him for Abraham and Moses. We thank him for Jesus. We thank him for Muhammad. And I thank him for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. We are deeply humbled and profoundly grateful to Father Michael Flagler for opening up the doors of St. Sabina Church tonight to his brother in faith, a friend for life, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the Nation of Islam. When justice calls, Father Pfleger always answers. Father Pfleger has always chosen, though unpopular, and in the face of vehement criticism and opposition, he has chosen to be on the right side of history. After the news of Facebook closing Minister Farrakhan's account hit the news, knowing that his brother is innocent of their charges, he called his brother to express his outrage. Father Pfleger saw this as another step in effort to silence and censor those who would dare speak the truth to power. He saw this as an infringement on the people's right to free speech. So he invited the minister and the Nation of Islam that if we wanted to make a response, the minister could do so from his church. And here we are tonight. By standing on the side of truth, justice, and what is right, Father Pfleger is being attacked. But we remind Father Pfleger that this is the time of God, the time of truth, the time of justice and righteousness, and no weapon formed against the righteous will prosper in the time of God. And if God be for you, then who can be against you? And what God has brought together in these two brothers, let no man put asunder. So thank you, Father Pfleger. We thank each and every one of you who have come out tonight to show your support. We thank all of our artists and celebrities, activists, politicians, professionals, to the common man and woman for your posts on social media in support of your and my brother, Minister Farrakhan. Thank you, Snoop Dogg, who started it all. T.I., 2 Chainz, Stephanie Mills, Nick Cannon, Busta Rhymes, Dorothy Lavelle, Russell Simmons, Scarface, Killer Mike, Attorney Benjamin Crump, and the list goes on and on and on. So many countless others express their outrage. Tonight, we want the enemy to know that Farrakhan is our brother. Farrakhan is our teacher. Farrakhan is our friend. Farrakhan is our leader. And an attack on him is an attack on all of us, for we are Farrakhan. If you support Minister Louis Farrakhan, we want you at this time. Back in the day, we used to protest with, the placards and picket signs. That's the word I was looking for. Picket signs. Well, today, and where's my picket sign? It's the cell phone. That's how you picket and protest today in the modern age. So we want everyone and all that are watching on the social media platforms, joining us live on NOI.org, we want you to text 99000 to register your support. 99000 to register your support for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we will keep you updated on our ongoing campaign, Defending Farrakhan. On all of your social media platforms right now, we want you to share, we want you to repost this live stream from St. Sabina Church. And on your social media platforms, we want you to put in, hashtag We Are Farrakhan. Can we do that? Let me see your picket signs. Everybody got their picket signs? Let's see. All right, all right, all right. Brothers and sisters, few remarks. The most wicked thing that Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook did, and what the media has done, is to falsely label and call Minister Farrakhan dangerous. We ask you, how is the minister dangerous? Is he dangerous because he's loved by his own people and admired and respected by millions around the world? By calling the minister dangerous and a hater, you want him to be hated by those who love, respect, and admire him, and for us to distance ourselves from him. Which one of his works do you stone him for? Is the minister dangerous because he imparts knowledge and tells the truth? How is he dangerous? Minister Farrakhan has wisdom and imparts knowledge to the masses who have been lied to by the government and miseducated by the system. Is this what makes him dangerous in your eyes? Ask us who are with him, is he dangerous to us? That's why we are here tonight, because we have benefited from his teachings and the example of righteous character. We love Minister Farrakhan, and we will not let you tell us who we should or should not listen to. Your day of being massa is all over. Is Minister Farrakhan dangerous because he teaches us to love and respect self? Is it dangerous to put men and women in respect and honor of each other and to rear their children properly? Is it dangerous to tell men and women not to drink, not to smoke, not to use dope, to clean up our lives, make our communities a decent and safe place to live? He teaches us to pool our resources in a collective manner and to do something for ourselves. Establish an independent education to teach our children the knowledge of self so that they will stop the fighting and the killing of one another. Minister Farrakhan gathers thousands every year, and there has never been any incident, no crime committed, nothing but peace. No one has ever come from a meeting after hearing from Minister Louis Farrakhan and done any harm to another human being, or committed a hate crime after hearing Minister Farrakhan. The only man to call for 1 million black men and hold the largest gathering ever in the history of this country and the world. And not one incident occurred during the 1 Million Man March. We left the National Mall as we found it. The head sergeant of the police, Capitol Police, told me personally that he had never had a gathering on that mall where there was no trash to be picked up. All the trash was put in the trash cans. And at the conclusion of the 1 Million Man March, the list of the minister's good, noble, and honorable work goes on and on. Over 64 years of dedicated service. How is he dangerous? The truth of the matter is, you are the real, clear, and present danger to the suffering masses. You lie, you steal, and you murder the innocent. Farrakhan didn't neglect the people of Flint. Farrakhan did not lie to the American people about weapons of mass destruction that caused the lives of thousands of U.S. soldiers to be lost in conflict, not to mention the tens of thousands of lives of Iraqis and Afghans that died. Farrakhan is not depriving our young people on the street of that essential knowledge that would stop the violence and the killing. Farrakhan did not come up with the predatory lending practices that cause millions of Americans to lose their homes. You're talking about dangerous. Farrakhan is not poisoning the food, poisoning the water, poisoning the air that the people breathe and eat every day. Farrakhan did not fill those rogue officers with hatred that murdered Mike Brown, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Laquan McDonald, and so many others. That's hate. You charge the innocent what you really are. You have a history of hate, murder, and violence. You're doing to Minister Farrakhan what you did against all of God's prophets and messengers. Whenever a prophet of God appeared and spoke truth to power and raised the consciousness of the people, exposing the wrong in the society, the Quran tells us the enemy purposed to destroy that messenger. Our beloved Jesus was hated and called dangerous. Jesus was lied on. He was falsely charged, evil spoken of, ridiculed, and mocked. They hated Jesus without a cause. And Jesus said to them, "You seek to kill a man who has only told you the truth. You seek to kill a man today who has only told the truth in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan." But we say, as I conclude, oh, Satan, you stoned and killed the prophets of God, and you seek the life of Louis Farrakhan. But God warns you, do my servants, the prophets, no harm, and do not touch my anointed. The good that the minister does is for the glory of God. We have benefited from this man's work, this man's sacrifice, this man's suffering to give us truth. And that's why it's time for us to stand up with the truth that we know, repost it, share it, and let the truth reign, because the day of falsehood and wickedness is up. Text, "We are Farrakhan," 99000 on your cell phones. Keep protesting with your picket signs. But this is our day. Let us welcome back our host, our friend, our pastor, Father Mike.
And we are listening to a speech that was in Chicago on last month, where in St. Sabina Church in Chicago, Minister Farrakhan's Facebook ban was discussed and challenged. And I think it's an important issue, as we cannot separate law and justice from everyday life. When you start talking about banning people for dangerous ideas and dangerous organizations, and it's interesting because Southern Poverty Leadership Conference also named the Nation of Islam and Minister Farrakhan as, dangerous organizations, and now they're coming under attack from Amazon, as I understand it. So once you start placing these labels on people, about what's dangerous speech, dangerous ideas, we go down the slippery slope. Do we need to take a break? And then, no, Muhammad, we have Muhammad on the line. Thank you so much for your call, Brother Muhammad.
Hey, how you doing?
Peace and blessings to you.
Peace to you. I was fortunate enough to hear that address when the minister made it at St. Sabina Church last month. And I noted that the assistant minister there, Minister Ishmael, really raised some valid questions about who's really dangerous to our community. I think it points to just a level of hypocrisy and, arbitrariness when you have the people making decisions about what is hate, and what is racist, what's anti-Semitic, favoring one community over another.
And what also is important and interesting is that over the last couple of years, it has appeared to me that, especially since from the time of Ferguson, Missouri, when African Americans began communicating at a high level on social media in a way that mainstream media could not control, if you will, that it appears to me that Facebook began to then identify groups, Black Lives Matter, etc., as black extremist groups. So it wasn't just Minister Farrakhan, but in this instance, obviously, it is a personal ban, but the power of social media is there in a way that we can communicate as if it were drums.
Yeah, that's right. It's really something that I think we need, don't need to accept, just because, they say so. The research that Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam puts out about enemies of the black community and outstanding systemic issues of racism that need to be corrected are things that the people need to know about and are relatively above dispute if you look at it.
Absolutely.
In terms of reading the research. Okay, so thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your call. If you'd like to give us a call, we're going to be here for another 10 minutes or so. You can reach out to us at 215-634-8065. Let me know if this information is the kind of information that you're interested in hearing. You can always reach us at 1-866-361-0900. The lines are open. Again, the number here is 215-634-8065. Reach us on Facebook at onWURD, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr at onWURD. And it's just important as we discuss issues of law, justice, and injustice, that we understand that the law of the land is supposed to be the United States Constitution and its amendments and the iterations thereof. But we know over history that the Constitution has not always applied to us from its beginning. We were not even considered a whole human being. And it has been through struggle. It has been through, continuing struggle that we have fought for our humanity, and we are still fighting for human rights and civil rights as denoted by the United Nations, as is ensconced in the constitutional amendments 13, 14, and 15 after the Civil War. We know Plessy versus Ferguson said that, the black man has no rights that a white man is bound to honor. I place Terry versus Ohio in that realm as well, because it allows unfettered detention of African American men and women, typically are men. And so from those and the drug laws and the war on drugs, we have to know and understand more and better how laws and the law of the land apply to us in a way that has been to our benefit and in a way that it has been to our detriment. And to understand that fully means that one of those constitutional amendments is the right of free speech. And so when you start calling people dangerous and when you start calling ideas dangerous, in my opinion, you begin to go down a slippery slope. So, you know, I know I went to law school, but listen, that doesn't mean you can't read law books and you can't become aware and conscious and do research on the law. There was a young brother a couple months ago, last month, who freed himself. Could not depend on a lawyer to free him, who went in his orange suit into the courtroom and won an acquittal. So we all can call ourselves stewards of the law. And yes, there are specialists, but you need to know. And so that's one of the things that we wanted to bring to you today. Facebook, Farrakhan, and the First Amendment. Study and show thyself approved. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back to you if you'd like to get on the telephone, 215-634-8065, as we march towards the 12 o'clock hour, towards the noon hour. We'll be right back.
Get your money straight.
Get my money right.
It's Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
The Kimmel Center offers free arts education programs to schools across the region. Teaching artists visit classrooms to educate, engage, and inspire the next generation using creative learning experiences, and schools take trips to the Kimmel Center for live performances. The Kimmel Center is committed to educating Philadelphia's youth by providing access to quality arts. For more information, visit kimmelcenter.org. Be heard.
Be heard.
Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
Using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Mark your calendars for Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church's 6th Annual Career Fair on Saturday, June 22nd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Located at 2800 West Cheltenham Avenue. Over 40 employers with full and part-time positions available. Please call or leave a message at 215-284-5757 or visit www.enontab.org. Enon, a place where people encounter God. Dr. Alan E. Waller, Senior Pastor. You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
I got the call today. I didn't want to hear, but I knew that it would come. An old true friend of ours was talking on the phone. She said you found someone. And I thought of all the bad luck and all the struggles we went through. How I lost me and you lost you. What are all these voices outside love's open door? Make us throw our contentment and beg for something more.
And we're back. You're listening to WURD 900 AM and 96.1 on your FM dial. I'm Rhonda Hill Wilson, attorney at law, and I practice law here in the city of Philadelphia, and also I practice in New Jersey and New York. Interestingly enough, I've expanded my reach, like they say, the Jabez theory. Expand the power of Jabez. Have you ever heard that? Oh, okay, that's Sunday school class next time. Reverend Dr. Kayla J. So one of the things that I like to do is try to bring the law to you. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about free speech before we get off the air. And this you will be able to find on the United States Courts website. And it talks about what does free speech mean. If you Google it, and you can Google it, obviously, or whatever your search engine site, and Google United States Court free speech, about the federal courts, it actually will give you some insight and direction and case law about what free speech is. And I'm going to read the amendment, but I just want you to know in part it says, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution says that Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech. Among other things, there's also freedom of religion, and I'll give it to you in its entirety. But it has been held by the United States Supreme Court that the freedom of speech rather includes the right, for example, not to speak. So for persons who choose, for whatever reason, and religious included, not to salute the flag, there's the United States Supreme Court in West Virginia Board of Education versus Barnett, that was decided in 1943, says that you have a right not to salute the flag. Freedom of speech includes the right of students to wear black armbands to school to protest a war. Under Tinker versus Des Moines, that was passed in 1969, and I'm sure as a part of the protest over the Vietnam War. To use certain offensive words and phrases to convey political messages. Cohen versus California, 1971. To contribute money under certain circumstances to political campaigns. Buckley versus Vallejo, that was decided in 1976. To engage in symbolic speech, that is, burning of the flag in protest. Texas versus Johnson, decided in 1989, and United States versus Eichmann, decided in 1990. Those are expressions that are protected under the United States Constitution. However, it does not include the right to incite actions that would harm others, such as shouting fire in a crowded theater, to make or distribute obscene materials. Roth versus the United States, decided in 1957. Interestingly enough, to burn draft cards as an anti-war protest. That was decided in United States versus O'Brien, 1968. To make obscene speech at a school-sponsored event. Bethel School District Number 43 versus Frazier, 1986, decided by the United States Constitution. And students to advocate illegal drug use at a school-sponsored event. So there is a right to free speech. It is proscribed in certain instances, but the United States Constitution, under the First Amendment, says that Congress shall make no law respecting respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And that's what it says. And so when I think about in the past, especially over the past few years, the protests in Ferguson, the protests that people came out to protest against police action, you have absolutely under the United States Constitution, the First Amendment to that Constitution, to establish, to be able to exercise the freedom of speech, of assembly, and to protest if there is a grievance that we have. So those are our rights as citizens of this country, and so we want to make sure that we don't go down this slippery slope of you can only say what I want you to say, how I want you to say it, and dress the way I want you to look. And no, that's not the right that we have as citizens of this country. So the Bible says, and that's what I, subscribe to as my faith liturgy, study and show thyself approved. Continue to learn about the rights that we have as United States citizens rather. Continue to know and understand how important your vote is. Anytime the GOP in Pennsylvania will protest and create, they wanted to get rid of all of these people on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court at one point. Impeach them all, just get rid of all of them. But now they've come up with a different way, and they're going to, propose by way of constitutional amendment to the Pennsylvania Constitution to be able to carve up Pennsylvania into districts. And that's just a form of gerrymandering. And that's what they do in order to disempower, dilute black political power. Know that we may be 10%, but we are mighty. And know that your vote counts. Know that your presence on the jury counts. Note that your presence in civic life and duty matters. So don't be hoodwinked, bamboozled, as the Honorable Malcolm X said and says, as we listen into eternity, as we listen. Know that everything about your participation in this country matters. And when you say it doesn't, then you fall in asleep and you fall in prey. So we want you to make sure that you continue to learn, continue to teach your young people, be hopeful, be informed, be active. Be active. And so we are going to prepare to go into our program with Dr. Donnie at the 12 o'clock hour. We are so thankful for this opportunity to come and to talk with you and to speak with you. We do have one last caller, and then we're going to prepare for Dr. Donnie at 1 o'clock. Yes, Antoinette, thank you for your call.
Oh, thank you. I want to say peace to you.
Peace and blessings.
Today. Thank you. I received it. And I just wanted to indicate that all Afro, males, females, from coast to coast, shore to shore, border to border, and around the world, should close up their account on Facebook. Close it down. And, that's exactly what I think that they should do. I mean, because if they want to shut him down without cause, it doesn't make any sense. And then here you got these officers, quote, so-called officers, with all this racist slang and discrimination and when they kill blacks and all that. But they allow that.
They allow that. Ain't that great? That's just crazy. So you allow the President of the United States to do what he does on Twitter, and he's the chief, in my opinion, the chief white supremacist. He has a license to say and speak whatever he wants on social media.
Exactly. And then Twitter is also a part of Facebook. Everybody should just, close their accounts and just shut it down.
And that's
we were the ones that built it up. You know what I mean?
I do. That's one way, and we need to talk about the best way. I think that should be a conversation, because they should not be able to remove someone who has not. Compare Trump to what has been posted by Minister Farrakhan. There's no question.
Part that I really don't understand, because all the races and things that he says and the racist ads that they put on Facebook, like they don't rent to Afro males and females, and you can't get loans, and not allowing Afro male females to buy houses or to rent this, but it's like they're evil. It's the demonic influence that they perpetrate, that they use, and that's all they're about.
So we have to have a conversation, and thank you so much, sister, for calling. We are running up against the 12 o'clock hour, but it's a conversation. But I just want people to be aware of our legal rights, be aware of the Constitution, be aware of its requirements and its duties and obligations as well. And so think on these things, study on this, and if it be God's will, we'll be back and we'll be able to have more conversation on the source. Dr. Donnie is next, and we want you to stay tuned. And is Reverend Al Sharpton coming on at 1? We got a lot of stuff. Stay tuned. God bless you. If it be God's will, we'll talk to you next week.
Been around the whole world, still ain't seen nothing like my neighborhood. And of all of the fancy satin and silk, my white cotton feels so good. Search high and low for a place where I can lay my burdens down. Ain't nothing in the whole wide world like the peace that I have found. In the little things and the joy they bring. It's the little things and the joy they bring. Yeah. Simple as a phone call just to make it known that you're gonna be a little late. Pure as a kiss on a cheek and a word that everything will be okay.